to get started talking about our messaging today. And one of the things somebody asked, I don't remember when, what is your message? You're talking about messaging, like when you message somebody on LinkedIn or send somebody a message on Facebook, and that's not what I'm talking about. Your message is the words you use to try to get people to recognize you. It's not your slogan, or what I'm talking about is not your slogan. It's not your tagline. It's definitely not your mission statement. It's the set of words and phrases that you use to grab your prospect's attention. And what it should be is a set of words and phrases that you can incorporate into your copy, whether it's long or short. You incorporate it into your posts, you put it on your website, you put it into your articles and in your social media profiles. And the idea is to get your prospects' attention. That's the number one idea. The second idea is to make them feel like what they're reading was written exactly for them. And then the third idea that you want to do with your messaging is to help people get to know, like, and trust you. And I'm hoping you guys have heard that know, like, and trust, because that is the key part of a sales funnel, taking somebody from a complete stranger to a client. It involves a series of steps, and it doesn't have to be complicated steps, but it is a series of steps to get them to where they know you and they like you, and finally they trust you. And at that point, they're more willing to buy from you. And all of that your messaging has everything to do with that. It's not where you start. Where you start is always identifying your ideal client. And that is almost as important as identifying what you're going to sell. A lot of times obviously you always have an idea of what your products, what your services are. But as you are identifying who you want to work with, that can change a little bit so that as you fine tune what your offer is. But the first step in everything in your marketing foundation is identifying who is your ideal prospect, who are you talking to, and the more narrow you can make that niche, the better off you are. And we will do a full training on the ideal clients in the next few weeks. So I'm not going to go into that right now, but just know that's where you have to start, because your message needs to resonate with them. What you're trying to do, what the last thing you ever want to do is just say, this is who we are, this is what I do. And that is the biggest mistake most businesses make. They start off on their website or their LinkedIn profiles or social media profiles. We do this. This is who we are. This is how long we've been in business. And it's all about what we do. And honestly, until your prospects are hooked, they could care less who you are and what you do. What they want to know is what you can do for them. And that's the secret to good messaging. Your first step should always be finding their pain points, addressing, what it is, what's their problem, and where does it hurt. It's almost like you're a doctor doing research. And the deeper you can dig on this, the more effective your messaging is going to be, and your marketing overall is going to be more effective. The better you can identify their pain points. And then not only you identify their pain points, and you also identify how you help fix their pain points. But the more emotional you can make your language, the better. And the key thing to your messaging, if you can get the exact terms your prospects use to identify their pain points, then they recognize themselves. And to do this, you have to do research. This is not something anybody can ever do in a vacuum. And I've had those conversations with people, and they're like, well, I don't, how do I know what to say? How do I know what to use? And the answer is always, you have to go out and talk to people. That is the number one best way to find out what language, what terms, what key phrases your contacts or your prospects are using, is to have conversations. Get them on the phone, message them on LinkedIn and Facebook, but real live conversations. How are things with you? What are your problems? And a lot of times it's easier if you're just trying to figure out your messaging or just starting out trying to figure out your messaging, not to even make these sales calls, to tell people, I'm not interested in, I'm not going to give you a sales pitch. I need to do research. I need to know, and be honest, I need to know how you describe your problem. There are several women's groups on Facebook where I see people do that a lot. Women helping women entrepreneurs, women in business. You'll see frequently women say, hey, I need to talk to somebody in my target market to get my language down. And I'm not going to sales pitch you. This is market research. And that's a great way to get people on the phone. Or on the flip side, if you just can't bring yourself to get people on the phone, you can always lurk in the groups and listen to the language people are using. And I recommend starting a spreadsheet. Once you have 15 or 20 people or 30, the more the better, you'll start seeing key terms, key phrases being repeated. And those are the terms, those are your sound bites. Once you see a phrase being repeated over and over again by your target audience, that is the core of your messaging, because that's what's going to get their attention. When you're, and by doing that, it's almost like a parroting their words, but it's not really. Well, it is really parroting their words. But what happens if they hear themselves in your copy, they're going to think, oh, she's writing that to me. Man, she's talking about me. And it automatically grabs somebody's attention, and it's subconscious. It's not an obvious hit them over the head. But if you're talking about somebody's problem in emotional terms or pulling on their emotions, using their own language, you've got them. And then, or at least you've got their attention. And then if you can turn that around and describe the outcome you're getting for them, they're all ears. That's when you can start talking about who you are and what you do. But the main thing, the first core of your messaging should be pain points, hitting emotional language, using emotional language to describe their pain points, and then talking about the outcomes you get for them. And this is not features, advantage, benefits. The old time advertising copy has gone out the window. When you start listing your features or your advantages or your benefits, you're going to bore people to death. And there's too many other things vying for their attention. You lose them. One of the other things you can do when you are talking about your solutions and your outcomes, know the ways you differentiate from your competitors and work that in there subtly. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be hitting them over the head, but you want to point out how you're different. What makes what you do different than everybody else. Bring it in, make sure you mention it. You can't let people discover that on their own, because they will never discover it on their own. So that's the core part. Now, as you start developing your messaging, one of the biggest mistakes I see business owners do, especially people in, not necessarily in my field, but in tech fields, people will use jargon. And I see 30-year-olds do this more than anybody, because it makes them sound smart, or they think it makes them sound smart. And they're trying to sound like an authority. And so they start throwing around all these terms and big words that people don't understand, and you turn them off completely. That's the best way to lose your audience. And another mistake I see people do is use what you learned in English class, and everything is grammatically correct as you write. And people don't respond to that either. You're not writing a term paper. You're writing advertising copy. And there's the main difference between the two. In a term paper, you've got all the styles and correct grammar. In advertising copy, you want to talk the way, or you want to write the way people talk. And that's how your messaging resonates with people. If you use the language styles, like if you talk to people really casually, then you write really casually. If you speak to people, when you're talking to clients, like if you're a lawyer or somebody like that, if your language that you use is more formal, then it's totally fine to use more formal language in your advertising copy. But if just one-on-one, you would never say the words that you're writing, throw it out and start over, because it alienates people, and you're going for a connection. You're trying to build a bridge to them and to make them see, or not make them see, but help them see that you're approachable. And that's part of that know, like, and trust. So if you're coming across as super formal, or you're saying things they don't understand, it totally turns them off. And it's easy to slip into that habit. I have done that with clients, not even thinking about, I'll get off the phone with one of my techs and pick up the phone and go straight to a client. And I'm talking about servers and DDoS and, DNS changes. And I had a client one day look at me and he said, no, stop. I had sold this guy completely on a website that was several $1,000s. And I started talking, I just dove into DNS changes and how we were going to do the changeover. And I saw his eyes glaze over and didn't stop talking, which was stupid, and blew it by just throwing a whole bunch of jargon at him that was completely unnecessary. And lesson learned. It's the best way to alienate somebody. When you confuse them, you're not making a sale. So that's the next thing. When you are posting, well, whether you're writing articles or you are posting on social media, your headlines are important. And if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, your first line is a headline. Back when I used to be in a former life, I was a magazine editor, and we would usually write 20 headlines for every article and test them and sound them out and vote. And it was a whole process to write an article headline. And it still should be that way. Your first line or your headline to your articles are what grab people's attention. If you can hit your pain points in that, perfect. But they need to be emotional. They need to be short, or relatively short, and they need to be attention grabbing. And one of the biggest things I use is a service called CoSchedule, and they have a headline analyzer. It analyzes your emotional words. It analyzes words that turn people off, that keep people from clicking. It's got all this algorithm built into it. I typically will still go through 15 to 20 headlines as I'm trying out my first lines and my headlines, not for every single post, but for ones that I really want to get across to people. And I will put a link to CoSchedule's headline analyzer in the group after we're done, because it is a tremendous resource. They also have one for email subject lines, and it's the same thought. You want to use your subject lines and your headlines to connect with people. And I've mentioned social media posts and articles and your website. This also, all of that I'm saying also applies to your emails for your clients, so or for your prospects. Now, once you have your sound bites down and the keywords and phrases you're going to be using, one of the hardest things I think for everybody is generating content for your social media posts. Finding something to post several times a week is hard. Having a template to where you've got your sound bites where you can just grab it and paste is awesome. But also finding ideas for your content. What do you want to talk about? And I made a post on LinkedIn several weeks ago that said, business services are boring. And I had a friend who owns an accounting firm. She's like, ouch. She private messaged me. And I said, okay, they are. I'm sorry, but all you talk about is taxes day in, day out. And yes, that post was meant for you. And it was. I wrote it for her specifically because that's all she talked about. I mean, it was taxes and the things that she was talking about it in a super salesy way that really, and I had asked her, I said, how many people are interacting with your content? None. I'm like, yes, because it's boring. So what I told her, and I think this kind of applies to anybody, some ideas for your content. And this is something Maria and I have talked about as well. Documenting what you do on a daily basis. That's interesting to people. When you have a conversation with a client, if you've answered a question or you've helped them solve a problem, that kind of stuff, the things we all do day in, day out, that's a wealth of content right there that you can pull from. So you tell stories about how people have gotten outcomes. I know Jeanette does that a lot in her social media posts. When you can show outcomes, especially the ones that address pain points, and you're pulling in the language your clients or your prospects use for pain points, and you're showing an outcome, that's the perfect social media post. Other ideas, if you, depending on who you're going after, spotlighting local businesses that some way you can pull in your pain points and your sound bites, inspirational quotes, whatever you can find that's that you can post on a regular basis, as long as you are pulling in your sound bites. If you're posting inspirational quotes day in, day out without any kind of a hook to them, you're probably wasting your time. Or you probably have people that say, oh, I love her posts, but you're not going to connect with people. You've got to find a way to pull in what you do into that. And on that note, also, if you're sharing content from somebody else, or you're sharing especially inspirational posts, I see this a lot where people will just find something and share it. That doesn't do you near as much good as finding an inspirational quote, putting your own spin on it, getting putting up your own graphic. You can use Canva or lots of online services to develop your own graphic and post it as an original. You're going to get far more traction than just sharing somebody else's content. Now on LinkedIn, it's a little bit different. Sharing somebody else's content is a great way to build up your connections with other people. I try to have 2 original posts and 4 shares, that ratio, just because it's easy, and you develop connections that way. It helps other people when you share their content. So anyway, but another client actually asked me last week, he said, so if my marketing message is perfect, but I'm still not getting clients, is it or he said, I think my marketing message is perfect, but I'm still not getting clients. And this is somebody that he's not a client yet. I'm just now talking to him. And in that case, there's something else wrong with your marketing. Your messaging is just one aspect of it. It could be your ideal client's not right, or you are trying to reach them in the wrong place. You might be using the wrong platform. You might be in just a super saturated, overcrowded market. And if that's the case, you need to niche down and find a better ideal client, somebody that you can define a lot narrower. Or there may be something else broken, that maybe you're making a great connection, but on the other side, you're not keeping that connection. You can make an awesome connection with somebody, and by the end of the day, they're going to forget you. If you've not found a way to establish like an email list, or like this, a Facebook group, or some other way to stay front and center in front of them, it's not necessarily wasted, but it's going to be a lot harder. When your message resonates with somebody, that's one hit. It used to be in advertising speak that you needed 3 hits to get somebody's attention. Now it's 7. And so you've got to have some kind of a system to keep getting hits with somebody and to keep making that connection. And the easiest way to do that is to develop a sales process. So that is the basics of marketing messages. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will share and edify some of what you said.
Sure.
So the person that I just had lunch with, I became Facebook friends with last week sometime. Okay. And she actually, it was one of my inspirational quote pictures. which I did exactly what you said. I actually took that and I actually posted it because and this is a tip for everybody. I'm reading The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy right now. I do a lot of personal development audibles. And so I say I'm reading it, but I'm really listening. But he said something that triggered me, right? I literally paused the book and said, I have to go, because I've linked it to what it means to me and my business. And I actually shared that along with the quote about no man's land that he referenced from Jim Rohn, right? And shared it, and she liked it. And I had seen her liking other stuff of mine, and she's a brand new friend. So I sent her a recipe, because one of the things she liked was a recipe, right? Because I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was bold and I started the conversation. The old Jeanette would have been scared. I just said, hey, you're a new friend of mine. I would love to meet you and tell you what I do if you're interested.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I said, and I even said, and I absolutely love it when people get my deeper stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
it's fun but you made a key point. You have to be bold and you have to reach out to people. And one of the cool things about what we're going through right now is so many people are used to using Zoom that it's nothing to reach out to somebody and say,
right.
you know, hey, your profile looks amazing. I'd like to get to know a lot more about you. Would you be
Mm-hmm.
in a 20-minute Zoom call? And most of the time people will say yes. I mean, unless they just don't want to. But typically, if they're on social media, they want to get to know.
We always say nobody's going to bite. And if they do, they're not the people you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, and if they're rude, they're not your ideal client because you don't want to work with them anyway. So, but that's a key point. You got to take that bold step and reach out to them. Once somebody starts engaging with you, you've got to make the move to say, hey, let's talk, let's get together.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really super good point. So, and I also recommend that book. I love The Compound Effect. And
it's only 4.5 hours on Audible. Right. It's well worth the time.
I've actually got it on my bedside table right now. So
I can totally see myself. I actually think I said to somebody, I'm like, this should be required reading like every year from 7th to 12th grade. Because it's such a small book. And I'm like, but it hits on all the pain points, right? And so, which by the way, that's another one that works for me, pain points.
Yes. Well, it's really hard to connect with people if you're not hitting them on an emotional level with your messaging. It's super hard to make any kind of connection and to stand out. I mean, the old school way of doing things, the features, advantages, and benefits were before the internet, before you had people being bombarded with so many messages all the time. And it's just a different world, and that doesn't work anymore. And if you're not using emotional messaging and hitting on pain points, your job is 10 times harder, if not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything to share?
I do.
Hey!
Sorry, I was coming in and I don't want to. Anyways, well, question, everything makes so much sense. But now, with me, how the messaging, one of my problems about the ideal client is that everybody that has a kitchen is a client. So for me, I can't wait for you to teach us like how to actually think about the specific client, because I can build a $3,000 kitchen like I can build a $75,000 kitchen. So I have a big range, but I hear over and over, I can't. If I really want to get more business or have more impact, I have to narrow it down. And my thinking is like, where do I go? To the $5,000 budget or to the $75,000 budget? But then I said, I want to help the $5,000 because there's nobody. I had a customer, they were older, really nice people. She actually praised the Lord, and she actually left me a message review on Google telling saying that she's thankful to God because of me, because they went to Home Depot and the people there wanted to just, you know, they didn't give them the time that they deserve. And they were looking at $25,000 kitchen. When I went there, I saw their budget. I spent time with them, and their kitchen was like $8,000. And she was so happy. So I know I can help them, but obviously $75,000, $50,000 is where I will make more money. But you know what I'm saying, where my brain gets stuck.
Well, and I think that's an important distinction with your ideal client. It's who do you want to work with? I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's who jazzes you up, you know, because I can totally relate to that. I have done $10,000 websites and I've done $2,500 websites. The $10,000 websites, obviously it's a better payday, but it's a lot more work. It's typically with bigger clients. Those people don't have the turnaround that a smaller website, they don't have not the turnaround, but well, it is the turnaround, the total difference in somebody's confidence level. The thing that makes me so excited working with somebody, that when I can see that, you know, we've redone their branding and they've got more confidence and, you know, they're doing all this, learning how to be tech savvy. At the end of the day, that's so much more fun for me. As long as I'm paying my bills, I would rather work with those, you know. And I think each one of us has that point. Obviously, paying your bills is first. You know, you've got to earn, you've got to bring in enough money. Your price point has to be high enough to where we're not all, you know, you don't want to work 80-hour weeks. That's no fun. But once you've kind of figured out that point, really your ideal client is who you want it to be. You know, those people, and this is one of my catchphrases, so you will hear this again in my ideal client training, but who are the ones that make you want to jump out of bed and work with no matter what? Because the ones that you are looking forward to and that bring you joy are going to be the ones who respond to you more. And so all of your branding, all of your messaging is going to connect with those people more, just because it's just more of a natural fit. And so that's what I would say to you. Find the ones that are your natural fit and narrow it down. And it is, I know it's hard because like you said, you could work with everybody who has a kitchen. But working with everybody requires a lot more, actually it just requires a much bigger ad budget, because to get your message to stand out in that marketplace, you're going to have to be everywhere. And that's expensive, if that makes sense. Whereas if you're just going after a much smaller group of people, you can afford to be super, super specific. And an example, and I don't know if I've told you guys this before, so if I have, I'm sorry, but an example I will use of this is the local nonprofit Waterways. They used to be Caribbean Sea. I was talking to her last month about their yard certification program. And I said, okay, so who's your target market? Who can you help? She said, everybody in Chattanooga with a yard. I'm like, okay, you don't have that budget. I know your budget, and you can't afford to market to every person in Chattanooga with a yard. How many do you need to sell in the next 2 years? And it turned out she only needed for her grants and for what they have the capacity to do, they needed less than 50 yards. I'm like, okay, so we don't need to market to everybody in Chattanooga. That's overkill. So what we did was we found 3 neighborhoods, which suddenly going after that little group of people is doable. It's affordable. It's much less work on her staff. And if you look at it that way, for niching down in your target market and more narrowly defining your ideal customer, it's more doable. You know, it's much less work on you, and you're talking to just a few very specific people as opposed to everybody. And one of the tricks to that was what I did with her. How many people do you need a month? And that's kind of how you can start figuring out your ideal market. Is, you know, what's your capacity? If you want to work with 10 a month, then you'll need to reach, I mean, you'll have to do the math and figure out, but if you want to work with 10 a month, you need to be having conversations with probably 100 people. If you want to work with 2 a month, you know, you can go a lot, even more narrow. So it really depends on how your business is set up on that. Does that answer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually that helped me because that also depends of the messaging.
Yes.
You know, and the words and yeah, because maybe that's why I get stuck every day. Like Jeanette said that she said she actually posts 3 times a day.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking, say, what do I have to say? I don't have nothing to say 3 times a day. Like, oh my God. So, and I guess that's what it is, just narrowing down, because I think that I want to talk to everybody. And you're right. You can't, the way that you talk to people has to be different, just as communications, relationships.
Yes.
It's not the same. So it makes so much sense.
So Leslie, I have a question though, because I mean, I have a similar problem to Maria, right? Like I mean, let's face it, literally 70% of the country needs what I have.
Right.
Like, needs. And then guess what? Most of the other 30% can benefit from it.
True.
So, but
that is true too.
70% needs it. And so, you know, it is hard to narrow down, but would it be fair to say, like, what I do with my transformations is I vary the stories so that I'm hoping to talk to somebody, right? Like, so sometimes I do show someone who's only lost 15 pounds, but they've transformed their body, like, or they've dropped their medicine or something like that, right? And then other times I show somebody who's lost 150 pounds or 300 pounds, you know, like, believe it or not, they're out there. So, you know, we, you can kind of almost talk to her. So for like Maria, it was like, it's like, find that ideal client. What's the client's, the kitchens, what price point is the best income for your time is what it seems to me. Right. I don't know. I mean, that you're better at that than me.
But it's a combination of what's best for your time. I mean, and what's you
fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the other part to me would be, but it's also okay occasionally to share a story like that couple authentically through Facebook. Like, this was so great. They had a lower budget, you know, and I was still able to make their dreams come true in their kitchen, you know, like, so I think, you know, I don't know, I guess, is that okay? Or
it's okay, but it's a lot harder. It really is. You have to work harder when you're going after a broader market, just because when you're going after a narrower market and you can, repetition is what getting your message in front of people at least 7 times. It's a lot harder if your messaging is wider, they won't see themselves as much. So if your message is narrow, then they see themselves every time. You know, if it's not, then, and it's, but I understand that too. Like, most of my ideal clients are women, but if I have a guy business owner, like I'm in a coaching group with a whole bunch of guys who, when I talk in our group about things like this, they're constantly, hey, can I talk to you about that? Now, I'm not turning away money.
Right.
So I don't ever say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not my ideal client because you're a guy. Sorry, I can't help you. That never happens.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, why they're connecting with you is because you're a woman and you have that perspective.
True.
I think it's that they're hearing, like, wait, this is we always say, what's happening, what's actually happening, what's missing, and what's next. Right. So, yes. You know, to me, that's like, they're going, I don't have a woman's point of view. That's what's missing. And she just provided it for me.
Exactly. So, anybody else? Julie, Karen, are y'all good? Do y'all have any questions, comments, anything to share that illustrates some of what we've talked about?
Just that I absolutely agree and support absolutely everything that you've said today. I'm really personally big on messaging, more of the physical messaging part. Everything that you want to say in words, I transfer it into the physical manifestation of the messaging you're trying to convey to people. just again, thank you for inviting me. This has been, and there has been a few things as you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I got to change that. Oh yeah, I got to update that. Because I'm going through, I mean, not just a physical move to Tennessee, but I'm doing some business pivots as well. So it's really, this is really good timing for me all over the place. So thank you so very much.
You're
so
welcome. I'm so glad. I'm glad to hear that. So, well,
And I'll hop in and say, y'all are welcome in our coffee chat. Since you're new to the area, we do Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings at 8 a.m. on my Zoom. So
awesome.
We can always post that somewhere if you want.
Yes, we absolutely can. And I had mentioned it to Karen, but I think until she moves, that's like 5 a.m. for her. So
oh, right.
Yeah, that's not really my jam. So
Me either, girl. Me either.
I just wanted to say real quick, this is Julie. I have absolutely loved this. I look so forward to future get-togethers with you guys. Every one of you is so impressive, and I've enjoyed hearing your thoughts and advice. Leslie, you're amazing. So, I run into that same thing where it's like, I'm a small business advisor. Well, how many small businesses are there? And I have a lot of work to do that y'all have made my brain start spinning. But I just want to thank you all for joining, and I'm so happy to meet y'all and get to know more about you. So thank you.
awesome. I'm so glad it helped. Well, fantastic. Well, I think we're going to wrap up there. We're a little less than an hour, but I figure if we go under an hour, we're good. Hopefully I'll see all of y'all either at the 8 o'clock, or for Julie, it's 7 a.m. I know that's kind of early for you too as well.
It's okay.
Coffee in the morning in Jeanette's room. And I would encourage Karen and Julie, if you guys have not had a chance to connect with everybody on Facebook, I would encourage you to do that. And then I think Jeanette has her coffee link. You typically message people once you're friends, don't you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you could just add them. We can add them to that one thread
group too. I will add that this afternoon in the group, in our group. But I hope to see you guys in the morning. I won't wear makeup tomorrow morning, and then again on Wednesday. Yeah, yoga and no makeup on the coffee things. But I look forward to seeing you guys Wednesday on the boosting swap. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions about your post, you can always put them in the group on Tuesdays for feedback. That's a great way to judge if you have any questions or if you're nervous, because I will say the posts that make you the most nervous are generally the ones that are going to be the most effective.
Absolutely.
Most emotional. Yeah. So if you need that boost of, yes, this is exactly what you need to say, you can put it in the group and we will give you that. So, all right. Well, y'all have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Bye.